Have you ever wondered how to make clothing and accessory items that force your avatar to interact with them perpetually? Something like this, where you can see the hand is stuck holding onto the jacket. These items will be the subject of our tutorial today. The steps are a bit tricky at first, but once you get used to them, you'll find it much easier the more you do. So, for starters, you're going to make your desired item. In my case, I will be making a jacket with a top underneath, with the intention of having my avatar holding on to the jacket. Now, let me pause here and explain the importance of planning when it comes to making these items. You need to decide beforehand if you want to mesh the item in a way that it is deformed by the body, like pants being stretched out by the waist, for instance. Or if the mesh itself won't be deformed, but the pose will still interact with the item. This step is very important because whichever option you pick here will determine not only your modeling process but also your rigging process. In my case, the latter scenario fits my intention. The jacket won't be pulled, deformed by the hand but only grabbed on. If your situation fits mine, then the tutorial is going to show you all the steps needed. However, if you would like yours in a way that it's deformed, then the steps in this video would still suffice, but you'd have to fill in the blanks here and there, which shouldn't be too difficult to accomplish. You can let me know in the comments if you would like a more explicit approach to that, detailed in a tutorial. Now, let's continue. So, to begin with, I open the default Nina Studio Blender file, pose the body in an A pose as I prefer working with A pose avatars. Then I exported the body, feet, hands and head together all to one OBJ file, making sure apply modifiers and selection only were checked while exporting. I also made sure to set the scale to 100 so that it would make pattern drafting and fitting much easier in Marvelous Designer. Then in Marvelous Designer, I imported the avatar using the import OBJ option, ensuring thereafter the import type was avatar. Thereafter, I began drafting patterns, sewing them together, and my mesh was complete. I set up my UV maps and exported the piece from Marvelous Designer as an OBJ. So far, nothing I've said is either new or mandatory. You can make whatever clothing or accessory items you wish in whatever software you can use, but just make sure that at this point, they are modeled to fit the body you are working with and that they have UV maps. Now, I opened up the Nina Shapes file since I want this item to be Shapes physics compatible. I imported my item into Blender. I quickly rearranged the UV maps just a bit. Then I assigned materials to all parts of my jacket and the top underneath. I set the body into an A pose to enable me to transfer weight properly. Using the multi-source weight copy add-on, I transferred weights from both the hands and the body to the jacket and top separately. Then, with the armature modifier, I reversed the A pose of the items, smoothing them out in the weight paint mode and adjusting them in sculpt mode to look decent enough in the required T pose for IMVU clothing imports. Once again, all this is subjective. I only had to do this because I made the items using the A pose. If you had used a T pose to model your item right from the start, then I imagine you understand that this doesn't apply to you. Now, onto the actual rigging and not just the reversal. Since this is going to be a Shapes physics compatible item, the first step is to open up the BPSK makeup panel to transfer weights from the physics body to the clothing item. Now, add an armature modifier and select the Shapes armature. Tab into weight paint mode and smooth all your weights around the physics areas. Since I made a top, I only focused on the pec bones. Once done, click the Make Shape Keys button. Then, click Delete Vertex Groups, remove the armature modifiers, and test that your items respond to the location and scaling deformations of the physics bones still. Now, transfer the weights from the body to your items. In my case, given that the jacket covers the hands as well, I used the multi-source weight copy add-on to transfer weights from both items at once. By the way, the links to both add-ons can be found in the video's description. At this point, your item should be rigged and ready to import into IMVU just like any other rigged clothing or accessory item. Go ahead and export your item by first selecting it, then shift selecting the armature, head to File, Export FBX. Make sure that selected objects only is checked, animation is unchecked, and add leaf bones is also unchecked. Here's where the pose comes in. Save your Nina Shapes Blender file and close it. Open up the Nina animation file from the animation folder. Import your exported FBX into the scene with File, Import FBX. Delete the armature included, scale the item down by 100 units if necessary, and apply transforms. In the modifiers panel, set the object's armature object to animation armature. You may now make the desired pose, adjusting only the bones required for that pose. In my case, I only needed to adjust the arm, hand, and finger bones on the avatar's left side. Set the keyframes at any range of your choice for only these bones. In my case, I set the keyframes at 1 and 20, making sure it's the exact rotation values marked at both keyframes. Then, very importantly, as we will be exporting this pose as an FBX, go to another frame after your initial 2 keyframes, clear all bone transformations, and mark a keyframe for all bones. Tab into Object Mode and export your armature as an FBX, making sure to have Selected Objects Only checked, Animation checked, and Add Leaf Bones unchecked. Open IMVU Studio and derive from the required base product. Given that in my case, the item is for the Shapes Physics compatible version of the Nina body, I will be deriving from the Nina Top SB product from SOB3D, where SB indicates a Shapes Physics compatible body. Import the rigged clothing or accessory item as you would any other by going to Import FBX, set the mesh ID 44 since this is a top, review and import. Import the pose FBX with Import FBX as well, making sure only the animation is imported. Go to the Actions tab and create a new action. Call it Blink and set its type to Avatar. Add a new ensemble and select the imported animation XAF under Skeletal Action. Now pause. If you've been up to speed with our tutorials on this channel, none of the things we've done other than the pose FBX export maybe are new. So here's a new process when it comes to setting up static poses for IMVU when exported from Blender in the way we exported. Let's continue. Set the start and end points to numbers that fall within the range specified in Blender. Remember that the pose keyframes were marked at frames 1 and 20, so in this case, you can set the points as 2 and 19. Also, set the loops to 0, click Preview, and here are your results. Now, using a test animation, you can see that even while dancing, the avatar holds onto their jacket, meaning that you're good either way. And for good measure, let's have a preview of everything with the textures applied. And we're done. I imagine that this process might be a lot to take in at first glance, but that's what the comments are for. Leave your questions in the comments, as publicly answered comments also help other users who face similar issues. If you would like to try out the item created in this video, the IMVU product link is in the video description. It goes without saying that buying the item in IMVU does support the creation of tutorials like this and the channel's efforts at large. If you found the tutorial helpful, a good way to express that would be by leaving a like, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you can subscribe as well. Share this video with people you think might find this helpful. Share also what other tutorials, IMVU or not, you would like to see on this channel. I will be looking through the comments and adding the topics to my schedule. Fun fact, the tutorial you just watched was suggested in the comment section of a previous video, so you never know. Above all, thank you for watching, and here's some more 3D videos.